There are stories that echo through time. Stories that begin in darkness, in silence, in the shadows of pain. Stories that are not supposed to end in triumph. Stories that, by every rule of the world, should have been forgotten. But sometimes, a single voice rises from the depths. A voice that refuses to be silenced. A voice that turns pain into power. This is not just a story of success. This is not just a story of wealth or fame or influence. This is the story of a girl who was told she was nothing and who became everything. A girl who was born into poverty, who was shaped by trauma, who was scarred by rejection, and who was nearly broken by the world. But she did not break. She did not surrender. She did not let the world decide her worth. She found her voice. She found her purpose. She found her power. This is the story of Oprah Winfrey, from pain to power. From silence to a voice that would change the world. From a forgotten child to a living legend. This is the story of how one woman turned her wounds into wisdom, and how she taught millions to do the same. This is not just her story. This is the story of what is possible when you refuse to give up, when you refuse to be defined by your past, when you choose to rise. This is the story of Oprah Winfrey. And it begins in the most unlikely of places. Oprah Gail Winfrey was born on January 29, 1954, in Kosciuszko, Mississippi. A small town, a forgotten corner of the American South. A place where dreams were small and hope was even smaller. She was born to a teenage mother, Vernita Lee, who was barely more than a child herself. Her father, Vernon Winfrey, was a coal miner, a barber, a man searching for his own place in the world. Oprah's arrival was not celebrated with fanfare. There were no silver spoons, no soft blankets, no promises of a bright future. There was only struggle. There was only survival. Her grandmother, Hattie Mae Lee, became her first guardian. A woman of faith, of discipline, of unyielding strength. Hattie Mae raised Oprah on a farm, in a house with no running water, no electricity, no comfort. But there was love. There was structure. There was the Bible, and there were stories. Stories that would become the foundation of Oprah's life. Stories that would teach her about hope, about resilience, about the power of words. Oprah learned to read at an early age. She devoured books, clung to them as lifelines. She read aloud in church, her voice ringing out in the small wooden pews. She found her first audience there, among the faithful, among the weary. She learned that words could move people, that stories could heal, that even a little girl from Mississippi could make people listen. But the world outside was not kind. Poverty was a constant shadow. Racism was a daily reality. Oprah wore dresses made from potato sacks. She was mocked, ridiculed, made to feel less than. She was told she was ugly, that she was poor, that she would never amount to anything. But inside, a fire was growing, a belief that she was meant for more. Her mother, Vernita, moved to Milwaukee in search of work. Oprah followed, leaving behind the safety of her grandmother's home. Milwaukee was a different world, louder, harsher, more dangerous. Vernita worked long hours as a maid, struggling to provide for her daughter. Oprah was left alone, left to navigate a world that did not care about her dreams. She was shuffled between relatives, between homes, between lives. She felt abandoned, unwanted, invisible, but she kept reading. She kept dreaming. She kept believing that there was something better waiting for her. She clung to the words of her grandmother, "You are special. You are loved. You are destined for greatness," even when the world told her otherwise. But childhood was not just marked by poverty. It was marked by pain. Pain that would leave scars for a lifetime. Pain that would nearly destroy her. But what happened next would shatter her world and test her spirit in ways she could never have imagined. Oprah's early years in Milwaukee were a storm of confusion and chaos. Her mother, overwhelmed by work and poverty, struggled to provide even the basics. Oprah was often left in the care of others' relatives, family friends, strangers. She was a child without a home, a girl without a safe place to land. And then the unthinkable happened. At just 9 years old, Oprah was sexually abused by a cousin. The betrayal was unspeakable. The pain was unbearable. But it did not end there. She was abused again by another relative. And again by a family friend. The cycle of trauma seemed endless. Each time she was silenced by fear, by shame, by the crushing weight of secrecy. She carried this pain alone. She buried it deep inside, where no one could see. She learned to hide her tears, to mask her suffering, to pretend that everything was okay. But inside, she was breaking. Inside, she was screaming for help. School became her refuge. Books became her escape. She excelled in the classroom, desperate for approval, desperate for a sense of worth. She became known as the Little Speaker, reciting poetry and Bible verses with a voice that belied her years. She won awards, earned praise, felt if only for a moment that she mattered. But the pain followed her everywhere. It haunted her dreams, colored her days, shaped her sense of self. She began to act out, to rebel, to seek love in all the wrong places. She became pregnant at 14, a child carrying a child. The world seemed to close in around her. Her son was born prematurely. He died shortly after birth. The loss was devastating. The shame was overwhelming. Oprah felt utterly alone, utterly lost. But even in the depths of her pain, a spark remained. A voice inside her whispered, "This is not the end. This is not all you are." She clung to that voice, even as the world tried to silence it. Her father, Vernon, stepped in. He brought her to Nashville, gave her structure, gave her discipline, gave her hope. He demanded excellence. He demanded respect. He demanded that she rise above her circumstances, and slowly Oprah began to heal. She began to believe that she could be more than her past. She began to see a future beyond pain. But just as she started to find her footing, life would throw her into a new world, one filled with challenges she never saw coming. In Nashville, Oprah found stability for the first time. Her father was strict, but he was present. He set rules, enforced curfews, demanded that she read a book every week and write a report on it. He believed in education. He believed in her. Oprah thrived in school. She joined the speech team, entered oratory contests, and won. She became a star student, a leader, a voice that could not be ignored. She was voted most popular girl, became the first African-American female co-anchor at her high school radio station. She began to see herself not as a victim, but as a survivor. Not as a statistic, but as a force. She won a scholarship to Tennessee State University. She studied communications, dreamed of a career in media. She wanted to tell stories. She wanted to give a voice to the voiceless. She wanted to change the world. But the world was not ready for her. Oprah's first job in radio came at age 17. She was hired by a local black radio station, WVOL, in Nashville. She was young, inexperienced, and terrified, but she was determined. She worked hard, learned fast, and quickly became a trusted voice on the air. After college, she landed her first television job at WLAC-TV, a CBS affiliate in Nashville. She was the first black female news anchor at the station. She was also the youngest. The pressure was immense. The expectations were crushing. She struggled to fit in. She struggled to be taken seriously. She struggled to find her place in a world that was not built for her. She was told to change her hair, to change her name, to change her voice. She was told she was too emotional, too passionate, too different, but she refused to change who she was. She refused to hide her truth. She refused to be anyone but herself. Her honesty, her vulnerability, her raw emotions set her apart. But it also made her a target. She faced racism, sexism, and constant criticism. She was told she would never make it. She was told she was not good enough. But she kept going. She kept fighting. She kept believing. She moved to Baltimore, took a job as a co-anchor at WJZ-TV. It was a bigger market, a bigger stage, a bigger challenge. But it was also a disaster. She struggled on air. She stumbled over her words. She was awkward, uncomfortable, out of place. She was demoted from anchor to morning talk show host, a move that felt like a failure, a humiliation. But it was there, in the world of talk shows, that Oprah found her true calling. She discovered the power of connection, the power of empathy, the power of being real. She began to shine. She began to soar. But just as she was finding her voice, the world would test her in ways she never expected. What she faced next would nearly break her spirit and force her to confront her deepest fears. Oprah's journey in Baltimore was a crucible. Every day, she walked into the studio with a knot in her stomach. She felt the eyes on her judging, doubting, waiting for her to fail. She was the only black woman in the newsroom, and the pressure was relentless. She was told to straighten her hair, to soften her voice, to hide her emotions. She was told to be less passionate, less outspoken, less herself. But she couldn't. She wouldn't. Her co-anchor, a seasoned journalist, made it clear she didn't belong. He dismissed her ideas, talked over her, made jokes at her expense. The producers criticized her every move. They said she was too emotional, too raw, too real for the news. They said she didn't have the look for television. They said she would never make it. Oprah tried to fit in. She tried to mold herself into what they wanted. But every time she did, she felt herself slipping away. She felt her spirit dimming, her voice fading. She was losing herself in the pursuit of acceptance. The ratings dropped. The station blamed her. They demoted her from the anchor desk to a morning talk show called People Are Talking. It felt like a public failure, a step backward, a humiliation. She cried in the bathroom, wondering if she should quit, wondering if she was cut out for this world. But something happened on that talk show. Something unexpected. For the first time, Oprah was allowed to be herself. She could laugh, she could cry, she could connect. She could talk to people, not just at them. She could share stories, not just read headlines. The audience responded. They saw themselves in her. They felt her authenticity, her empathy, her courage. The ratings began to climb. Oprah found her rhythm, her confidence, her power. But the scars of rejection lingered. She still heard the voices telling her she wasn't enough. She still felt the sting of every criticism, every slight, every dismissal. She still doubted herself, still wondered if she belonged, and then another setback. A national talk show producer visited Baltimore, scouting for new talent. Oprah was sure this was her big break. She poured her heart into the audition, gave everything she had, but she was passed over. The producer said she was too local, too raw, not ready for the big leagues. Oprah was devastated. She went home and cried herself to sleep. She questioned everything: her talent, her dreams, her worth. She wondered if she should give up, go back to Nashville, find a safer path. But deep down, she knew she couldn't. She knew she had something to give. She knew her story wasn't over. She kept showing up. She kept doing the work. She kept believing that her moment would come. And then, in 1983, it did. A call came from Chicago. A struggling morning talk show, AM Chicago, needed a new host. They wanted Oprah. It was a risk, a leap into the unknown. But Oprah said yes. She packed her bags, left everything she knew, and moved to a city where she had no friends, no family, no safety net. She was terrified, but she was ready. Chicago was a different world. The stakes were higher, the competition fiercer, the expectations greater. Oprah was an outsider, a newcomer, a black woman in a city that was not always welcoming. The show was in last place, on the verge of cancellation. The pressure was suffocating, but Oprah brought something new. She brought herself. Her honesty, her vulnerability, her willingness to talk about real issues: race, poverty, abuse, addiction resonated with viewers. She listened. She cared. She made people feel seen. Within months, AM Chicago shot to the top of the ratings. Oprah became a sensation. She was offered a syndication deal. The show was renamed The Oprah Winfrey Show. She was on the verge of something extraordinary. But with success came new challenges. The media scrutinized her every move. Critics questioned her qualifications, her intelligence, her right to be in the spotlight. They called her too emotional, too soft, too black. They said she was a fad, a fluke, a novelty. Oprah felt the weight of their words. She felt the pressure to prove herself, to justify her place at the table. She worked longer hours, pushed herself harder, demanded more from herself than anyone else ever could. She made mistakes. She trusted the wrong people. She signed bad contracts, lost money, faced lawsuits. She was betrayed by colleagues, exploited by business partners, targeted by rivals. Every setback felt like a personal failure. Every loss felt like a confirmation of her deepest fears. She was haunted by the voices from her past, the voices that said she would never be enough. But she refused to give in. She refused to let failure define her. She refused to let the world decide her worth. She kept going, she kept fighting, she kept rising. But just as Oprah was reaching new heights, a storm was brewing behind the scenes. A storm that would threaten everything she had built and force her to confront the darkest parts of herself. Success is never a straight line. For Oprah, every triumph was shadowed by new trials. The higher she climbed, the more she was tested. The more she achieved, the more she was challenged. The pressure became overwhelming. The demands of fame, the scrutiny of the media, the expectations of millions, it was too much to bear. Oprah began to lose herself in the whirlwind. She worked 16-hour days, 7 days a week. She neglected her health, her relationships, her soul. She struggled with her weight, her self-image, her sense of worth. She was criticized relentlessly for her appearance. Tabloids mocked her, called her unattractive, unworthy. She felt exposed, vulnerable, alone. She tried to numb the pain with food, with work, with perfectionism. But nothing filled the emptiness inside. Nothing silenced the voices of doubt and shame. She faced betrayal from those she trusted most. A close friend sold stories to the tabloids. A business partner embezzled money. A staff member leaked confidential information. Oprah felt surrounded by enemies, even in her own home. She questioned everyone's motives, doubted every relationship, feared every new connection. She built walls around her heart, isolated herself from the world. The show, once her sanctuary, became a battlefield. Ratings wars, legal battles, public controversies, every day brought a new crisis. She was sued for defamation, accused of bias, targeted by hate groups. She received death threats, hate mail, threats against her family. The weight of it all became unbearable. Oprah began to break down. She suffered panic attacks, insomnia, depression. She lost her joy, her passion, her sense of purpose. She questioned everything: her career, her mission, her life. She wondered if it was all worth it. She wondered if she should walk away. One night, alone in her apartment, Oprah hit rock bottom. She looked in the mirror and saw a stranger. A woman who had everything but felt like nothing. A woman who had given everything but felt empty inside. She fell to her knees and wept. She cried out for help, for healing, for hope. She realized that all the success in the world meant nothing if she didn't love herself. If she didn't heal the wounds of her past, if she didn't find peace within. It was in that moment of darkness that Oprah made a decision. A decision that would change everything. But what happened next would ignite a transformation, one that would not only save her life, but inspire millions around the world. Oprah knew she couldn't keep living this way. She knew she had to face her pain, not run from it. She knew she had to heal, not just survive. She sought therapy, opened up about her trauma, confronted the ghosts of her past. She learned to forgive not just those who had hurt her, but herself. She learned to let go of shame, to embrace vulnerability, to find strength in her scars. She began to meditate, to pray, to reconnect with her spirit. She rediscovered the power of gratitude, the beauty of stillness, the importance of self-care. She learned to say no, to set boundaries, to protect her energy. She surrounded herself with people who loved her, who believed in her, who lifted her up. She built a tribe of mentors, friends, and allies who supported her vision, who shared her values, who challenged her to grow. She redefined success not as fame or fortune, but as fulfillment, as purpose, as service. She realized that her greatest gift was not her platform, but her story. Her ability to turn pain into power, to turn wounds into wisdom, to turn struggle into strength. She made a promise to herself to live authentically, to lead with love, to use her voice for good. And with that promise, Oprah began to rise. But the world had no idea what was coming next. Oprah was about to unleash a wave of change that would shake the foundations of television and transform the lives of millions. Oprah returned to her show with a new fire in her heart. She was no longer just a host, she was a woman on a mission. She wanted to do more than entertain. She wanted to heal. She wanted to inspire. She wanted to change lives. She began to open up about her own struggles on air. She talked about her childhood, her trauma, her battles with weight and self-worth. She shared her pain, her doubts, her fears. And in doing so, she gave others permission to do the same. The audience responded with overwhelming love. Letters poured in by the thousand stories of heartbreak, of hope, of healing. People saw themselves in Oprah. They saw a woman who had suffered, who had stumbled, who had risen again. They saw a woman who was real. Oprah's show became a safe haven for the broken, the lost, the searching. She tackled topics that others wouldn't touch: addiction, abuse, racism, homophobia, mental illness. She brought experts, survivors, and everyday heroes onto her stage. She listened with compassion, with empathy, with an open heart. She was not afraid to ask the hard questions. She was not afraid to challenge her guests, to confront injustice, to demand accountability. But she always did it with kindness, with respect, with love. The ratings soared. The show became a cultural phenomenon. Oprah became a household name. But she never forgot where she came from. She never forgot the little girl in Mississippi, the girl who wore potato sack dresses, the girl who was told she would never be enough. She carried that girl with her every day. She spoke to her, comforted her, celebrated her. She used her platform to lift others up. She gave away scholarships, paid off debts, built homes for the homeless. She started the Oprah Winfrey Foundation, dedicated to empowering women and children around the world. She launched the Oprah's Book Club, turning unknown authors into bestsellers overnight. She championed stories that needed to be told, voices that needed to be heard. She took risks, broke barriers, shattered glass ceilings. She became the first Black woman to own and produce her own talk show. She negotiated her own contracts, demanded ownership, built an empire. But it wasn't just about business. It was about impact. It was about legacy. It was about using her power for good. Oprah's influence grew beyond television. She became a trusted advisor to presidents, a confidant to celebrities, a mentor to millions. She was named one of the most powerful women in the world, year after year. But with every new success, she faced new challenges. She was criticized for her wealth, her influence, her choices. She was accused of being too political, too spiritual, too ambitious. She was targeted by conspiracy theories, hate groups, and online trolls. But Oprah stood tall. She refused to be defined by her critics. She refused to shrink to make others comfortable. She refused to apologize for her success. She kept moving forward. She kept breaking new ground. She launched the Oprah magazine, creating a space for inspiration, wisdom, and self-discovery. She produced movies and documentaries telling stories that mattered. She founded the Oprah Winfrey Network, OWN, giving a platform to diverse voices and perspectives. She invested in education, building the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for girls in South Africa. She poured her heart and soul into the school, mentoring the students, guiding them, loving them as her own. She became a global force for good, a beacon of hope, a symbol of what is possible. But through it all, Oprah remained grounded. She practiced gratitude every day. She meditated, prayed, reflected. She surrounded herself with people who kept her humble, who reminded her of her purpose. She never stopped learning, never stopped growing, never stopped dreaming. But even as Oprah reached the pinnacle of success, she faced a choice that would test everything she believed in. A choice that would define her legacy and change the course of her life forever. The world watched as Oprah made her next move. She announced that she would end the Oprah Winfrey Show after 25 years. It was a decision that shocked millions. Why would she walk away from the most successful talk show in history? Why would she leave behind the platform that had made her a legend? But Oprah knew it was time. She knew that true power comes from letting go, from making space for something new. She wanted to create a network that would inspire, uplift, and empower on a global scale. The launch of OWN was not easy. The network struggled in its early years. Ratings were low, critics were harsh, investors were nervous. Oprah faced setbacks, failures, disappointments. She questioned her decision, wondered if she had made a mistake. She worked tirelessly, pouring her energy, her resources, her heart into the network. She refused to give up. She refused to let fear dictate her future. She refused to settle for anything less than greatness. Slowly, OWN began to find its footing. New shows found their audience. New voices emerged. The network became a home for inspiration, for transformation, for hope. Oprah's vision was coming to life. She continued to use her platform to tackle tough issues: racism, inequality, injustice. She interviewed world leaders, activists, survivors. She gave a voice to the voiceless, a spotlight to the overlooked, a stage to the silenced. She used her influence to drive change, to spark conversations, to move hearts and minds. She became a champion for mental health, sharing her own struggles, encouraging others to seek help. She spoke openly about her journey with trauma, with healing, with forgiveness. She inspired millions to live their best lives, to dream bigger, to love deeper, to rise higher. But just when the world thought they had seen everything, Oprah could do, she would step onto a stage and deliver a speech that would echo across generations, reminding everyone that the journey from pain to power is never truly over. Oprah Winfrey's name became synonymous with possibility. She was no longer just a talk show host, she was a movement, a force of nature, a living testament to the power of resilience, vision, and heart. Her empire grew, not just in size, but in impact. She became the first Black female billionaire in history. But for Oprah, the numbers were never the point. It was about what she could do with her influence. It was about the lives she could touch, the doors she could open, the hope she could ignite. She invested in people. She invested in dreams. She invested in the future. Her book club changed the publishing industry forever. Unknown authors became household names overnight. Stories that would have been lost found their way into millions of hands. She made reading cool again. She made learning a revolution. She launched Super Soul Sunday, a show dedicated to spiritual growth, self-discovery, and the search for meaning. She brought thought leaders, philosophers, and spiritual teachers into living rooms across America. She asked the questions that mattered. Who are you really? What is your purpose? How do you heal? How do you forgive? She created a space for vulnerability, for truth, for transformation. She reminded people that they were not alone, that their pain had meaning, that their story mattered. Oprah's Leadership Academy for Girls in South Africa became a beacon of hope. She poured her soul into the school, visiting often, mentoring the girls, celebrating their victories. She watched as they graduated, went to college, became leaders in their own right. She saw the ripple effect of her investment, one life at a time, one dream at a time. She used her platform to champion causes close to her heart. She fought for children's rights, for women's empowerment, for racial justice. She donated millions to disaster relief, to education, to healthcare. She stood up for the voiceless, the forgotten, the marginalized. She became a trusted advisor to presidents, a confidant to world leaders, a mentor to the next generation. She was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian honor in the United States. She was named one of Time magazine's most influential people year after year. But through it all, Oprah remained grounded. She never forgot her roots. She never forgot the pain that shaped her, the struggles that defined her, the lessons that saved her. She spoke openly about her journey, her failures, her heartbreaks, her doubts. She reminded people that success is not a straight line, that every setback is a setup for a comeback, that every wound can become a source of wisdom. She built a team of loyal, passionate, purpose-driven people. She empowered them to lead, to innovate, to dream. She created a culture of excellence, of integrity, of love. She negotiated her own deals, owned her own content, controlled her own destiny. She became a model for entrepreneurs everywhere, especially women, especially people of color. She showed the world that you don't have to ask for permission to be great. You just have to believe in yourself and do the work. Oprah's influence extended far beyond television. She became a global brand, a symbol of hope, a voice for change. She inspired millions to start businesses, to write books, to pursue their passions. She showed people what was possible when you refused to give up. She faced criticism, jealousy, and backlash. She was accused of being too powerful, too rich, too influential. But she never let the noise distract her from her mission. She stayed true to her values, her vision, her voice. She continued to evolve, to grow, to reinvent herself. She launched new ventures, explored new mediums, embraced new challenges. She never stopped learning, never stopped dreaming, never stopped reaching. She became a living legend, a cultural icon, a beacon of hope. But even as she built her empire, Oprah never lost sight of what mattered most. She never stopped asking the big questions. She never stopped seeking the truth. She never stopped believing in the power of love. But even legends face moments of doubt. Even icons must confront the limits of their own power. And for Oprah, the next chapter would test her in ways she never expected, forcing her to dig deeper, to reach higher, to become more than she ever imagined. Oprah's journey was far from over. She had achieved more than anyone thought possible. But she knew that true greatness is not measured by what you have, but by what you give. Not by the empire you build, but by the lives you touch. She began to focus more on legacy, on the impact she would leave behind, on the seeds she would plant for future generations. She mentored young women, young men, young dreamers. She shared her wisdom, her scars, her truth. She encouraged them to find their voice, to own their story, to rise above their circumstances. She spoke at graduations, at conferences, at rallies. She delivered speeches that moved millions to tears. She reminded people that they are not defined by their past, but by their choices. That every day is a new opportunity to begin again. She continued to use her platform to shine a light on injustice, to amplify voices that needed to be heard. She tackled tough topics: racism, sexism, poverty, violence. She challenged her audience to think deeper, to act bolder, to love harder. She became a champion for mental health, sharing her own struggles, encouraging others to seek help. She spoke openly about therapy, about healing, about the journey to self-love. She inspired a new generation of leaders, thinkers, and changemakers. She showed them that it's possible to rise from nothing, to overcome anything, to become everything you were meant to be. She never stopped believing in the power of dreams. She never stopped fighting for what was right. She never stopped loving, never stopped giving, never stopped hoping. Oprah's legacy is not just in the shows she created, the books she recommended, the schools she built. It's in the lives she changed, the hearts she healed, the hopes she inspired. She taught the world that pain is not the end of the story, that every wound can become a source of wisdom, that every struggle can become a stepping stone to greatness. She showed us that it's possible to turn pain into power, to rise from the ashes, to become the hero of your own story. But as Oprah looked back on her journey, she realized that the greatest lesson of all was still to come, a lesson about love, about forgiveness, about the true meaning of power. Oprah Winfrey's life is a masterclass in resilience, a living example of what it means to rise, to fall, to rise again. She has faced every kind of adversity: poverty, abuse, rejection, betrayal. She has been doubted, dismissed, underestimated, and misunderstood. But she never let the world define her. She never let her circumstances dictate her destiny. She never let her pain become her prison. She turned her wounds into wisdom. She turned her struggles into strength. She turned her pain into power. Oprah's mindset is simple, but profound. She believes in the power of intention. She believes that what you focus on expands, that your thoughts create your reality, that you are responsible for your own life. She practices gratitude every day. She starts each morning with a prayer, a meditation, a moment of stillness. She writes down the things she is thankful for, no matter how small. She believes in the power of forgiveness, not just for others, but for herself. She knows that holding on to anger, resentment, or shame only hurts you, that true freedom comes from letting go. She believes in the power of service, that the greatest joy in life comes from giving, from helping, from lifting others up, that success without significance is empty. She believes in the power of authenticity, that you must be true to yourself no matter what, that your story matters, your voice matters, your life matters. She believes in the power of hope, that no matter how dark the night, the sun will rise again, that every ending is a new beginning, that you are never alone. Oprah's habits are simple but powerful. She reads every day. She surrounds herself with people who inspire her, challenge her, support her. She invests in her health, her mind, her spirit. She sets clear goals, but she is not attached to the outcome. She trusts the process, trusts the journey, trusts herself. She lives with purpose, with passion, with love. She has learned that true power is not about control, or domination, or wealth. True power is about presence, about being fully alive, fully awake, fully yourself. She has learned that the greatest gift you can give the world is your authentic self, your truth, your love, your light. She has learned that legacy is not about what you leave behind, but about who you become. And as Oprah stands at the summit of her life, she knows that her story is not just her own. It is a call to all of us, a challenge, a promise, a hope. This is the story of Oprah Winfrey. A story of pain and power, a story of struggle and triumph, a story of darkness and light. It is the story of a little girl from Mississippi who was told she was nothing and who became everything. It is the story of a woman who turned her wounds into wisdom, her scars into strength, her pain into power. It is the story of what is possible when you refuse to give up, when you refuse to be defined by your past, when you choose to rise. Oprah's journey is not just her own. It is the journey of every person who has ever been told they are not enough. Every person who has ever been broken, or lost, or afraid. Every person who has ever dreamed of something more. She has shown us that greatness is not reserved for the chosen few. That power is not about what you have, but about who you are. That legacy is not about what you leave behind, but about how you live. She has shown us that you can rise from nothing, that you can overcome anything, that you can become everything you were meant to be. So when you find yourself in the darkness, when you feel lost or broken or alone, remember Oprah's story. Remember that pain is not the end, that every struggle is a stepping stone, that every wound can become a source of wisdom. Remember that you have the power to rise, to heal, to become. This is not just the story of Oprah Winfrey. This is the story of all of us. The story of what is possible when you turn pain into power. And the world will never be the same.